Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we are continuing on the seasonal color analysis series for 2023 with Soft Muted Autumn. If you're not familiar with Soft Muted Autumn, it's one of the 12 seasonal colors and it has a neutral to warm undertone and the overall color scheme is slightly grayed and muted. Let's get right into the video. All right, let's get our Soft Muted Autumn makeup tutorial underway. I have already done my complexion makeup. For the rest of my face, my lips feel very intense and very cool toned. I'm gonna go ahead and apply my lip color and then we can kind of gauge where we wanna go from there with the rest of the face. For Soft Muted Autumn, if you're looking for a nude or natural lip color, you want to look at the natural color of your lips. And normally when we're looking at our lips, you will find there's some different tones in the lips. So you'll have a lighter tone and you'll have a slightly deeper tone. For me, looking at my lips, the inner portion of the lip is a little bit more saturated. It's more of a plummy rose, whereas the outside edge is going to be a little bit more of a soft pinky mauve. For this, I want to go with a slightly lighter tone to help bring harmony because Soft Muted Summer is going to be a soft, neutral, warm color palette with strong gray undertones. I want to go with the more neutral color that I see occurring in my lips. Lisa Eldridge Enhance and Define Lip Pencil in the shade Muse. Line and fill my lips in all the way. Lip liner just on my lower lip in comparison to the upper lip is going to be a lot more of like a slightly rusty rose tone. It has more warmth and more saturation than the upper lip. That is just kind of the general area I want to go in for a natural lip tone. And when you were saying a natural or nude lip color, it's going to be different for everyone. Back in the 2010s, we had that kind of universal nude, which is a pale beige, which almost is reminiscent of shiny concealer lips. Now we want to look for something that is more like our lip color but perfected. So since this is Soft Muted Autumn, I want my lip color but slightly warmer. So now lip liner is applied all over the lip, and what I want to do is I'm just going to take a tissue and blot the lip down. And there's not really much transfer, but any of the type of residual oils on the lips, I just want to remove them since I'm going to use a lip stain. And if you're wondering why am I applying my lip color before I do my eyes or my cheeks, you can apply your makeup in any which way you want. My lip color, I don't want it to be the center focal point of the look, but I don't want it to be the softest look. So I kind of want my cheeks to be the soft background support. I want my eyes to have the most intensity, and I want my lips to be that nice mid-ground. So having something on my lips will allow me to play up my eyes and know how strong I need to take my eyes. And that is a great trick whether you are working with a more of a natural nude lip color or you're using more of a statement lip color. And that works well for Soft Muted Autumn because you want to make sure all your features are kind of in that relative playground within they're all equal. You don't want one feature to be too strong compared to the other ones. Meanwhile, if you are doing this for more of a spring look, you want to have that higher level of contrast. So maybe you want the eyes to be quite intense. You want the lips to have a slightly more intensity, but you want the cheeks a little bit softer. So putting your lip on first can help you kind of gauge the intensity of the other features. For my lip stain, I'm going to use a Roman Juicy Lasting Tint. This is in number 23 Macadamia. So now we have our nice kind of moody, muted nude lip color. I love the combination of the Roman Juicy Lasting Tint to Macadamia with the Lisa Eldridge Muse lip pencil because it gives you this nice toasty rose nude lip color. And even though peers right now to feel a little bit more intense, a little bit more of a statement, once the eyes and the cheeks are on, this is still that nice kind of cozy, toasty nude to pair with your favorite knit sweater. For the rest of the face, I'm not quite sure what order I want to go in. So I'm gonna start adding a little bit to the cheeks, and I'm gonna start off with my highlighter. My favorite highlighter for Soft Muted Autumn is going to be something that has a low level shine. You don't want anything too shiny because that would be tiptoeing into your light spring sister color palette. You want something that's gonna have a little bit of a softer glow to it. Something that's to make you feel lit from within versus beaming from space. I love the Laura Mercier Matte Radiance Baked Highlighter. This is the shade Highlight 01. And I'm gonna use a rougher number 18 brush. I just want to use a little bit of product just to glaze the high point of the cheek. When I'm looking in my mirror, I want to find where the light hits, and I want to round, taking it onto the front ball of the cheek. Since this is the cheek color I am applying first, meaning I'm applying it before my blush, bronzer, or contour, this is going to be a background feature. It's going to give everything else a nice natural luminosity to it that doesn't overtake the look. It just keeps that overall harmony of high and low contrast. You did not remember until just now, I do have a little bit of mascara on already, and that's just because I put it on earlier today before I ran a few errands. And this is one of my favorites no makeup mascaras that is great for any seasonal color palette, with maybe the exception of winter. It's not gonna have enough oomph. L'Oreal Voluminous Brown Balm Mascara. It is a nice rubber comb mascara, and it looks like natural lashes that have just been tinted. You're not gonna get a ton of length, you're not gonna get a ton of volume, but this is great for that no makeup lash. So if you're having a simple day with a simple look and you just want like you but better, you but enhanced, this is a really beautiful mascara formula. Now I'm gonna continue on with my cheeks, and I want to balance the highlight with a low light or a contour. And soft muted autumn is a season that does really well with contouring, because just like soft muted summer, they both have that gray base. That means when you look at the colors for the overarching palette, it's going to have that soft muted gray base. I feel like Korean beauty brands do muted contours extremely well. I'm using one from the brand Roman. This is the Better Than Shape powder, and I have shade 01. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the cooler of the two options. So this is gonna be more of a cool beige gray. There is another shade that is slightly warmer. It's gonna be more of a warm yellow gray that's still muted, that would do really well for soft muted autumn. Try this out with a shade that suits your skin tone. I'm going to mix the two colors together, and I'm gonna continue using the rougher number 18 brush. Even though I use this to apply my highlight, I can still use this to tie in some contour and blend it into the highlight, since this is all going under the rest of the makeup. So I'm gonna start back towards the top of my ear and just work it into the cheek, following the hollow of the cheekbone. Then I like to use my powder brush just to soften it. And already just having the little bit of highlight and contour on compared to the side without, I feel like it makes the lip color look a little bit softer. So you'll start to see everything tied together really nicely. I also like taking a fluffy blending brush. This is an e.l.f. Fluffy Eye Blender, and I'm going to pick up my contour color again, and I'm gonna run this to the socket of my eye to start with defining my eye shape. You know what? I love just contour on the eyes. If you are a soft muted summer and you want a great everyday look that is simple and easy, follow along with where we're at to now. So you've got your highlight and your contour on. I'm gonna go back to my highlight. Again, this is the Laura Mercier Matte Radiance Highlight. I'm gonna use my finger, and I'm just going to tap that starting at the inner corner of my eye and sweeping right along to the middle or the round of my eye. So right there, just with our highlight and contour, we've already got a little bit of an eye look going on. It's a very simple, defined eye look, which is great for every day. If you want to add a little bit of color, let's add our blush. And for blush, I'm going to go to my little Sydney Grace palette. You know, I love putting together a mix of my Sydney Grace singles for the color season. We are going to use the blush that I've pulled, and this is called Peaches and Cream, and it's a matte finish blush. I'm going to use the BK Beauty A507, and I want to just balance this on the cheek. This would be a very soft, subtle color, but it's gonna pull in that muted warmth that we're seeing in the lip color. Then I'm gonna go back to my e.l.f. Fluffy Eye Blender, and I'm gonna take a little bit more of the Peaches and Cream blush, and I'm just gonna run that on the outer corner of the eye and wrap it into the socket. And something else fun that I love doing with some of these warmer colors, take a little bit on your brush and just gently run it under the lower lash line. And I would just take the excess right on the bridge of the nose, a little bit on the forehead. And that's kind of like your everyday soft muted autumn makeup look. It's almost like soft muted autumn does that classic Taylor Swift makeup look, where it's mostly just pop of color on the lips and then a very harmonious face. The only thing we're missing for a Taylor Swift look would be a little bit of an eyeliner, but we can go ahead and bridge this into a little bit more of a dressed up night out type of look. So I'm gonna continue on with my Sydney Grace palette. This time I'm gonna move into the shadows. I'm not exactly sure what I wanna do with my eyes, so I'm gonna start with a random color, and that is going to be my shimmery shade. This is called Golden Strawberry. This is a pressed pigment. I am going to use a very old MAC 217 7 brush. I'm gonna use the side of my brush or the belly of the brush just to start tapping the golden strawberry shade onto my eyelid. Once I kind of have that pressed on, I'm going to now use the front of my brush or the tip of the bristles just to buff all over my eyelid. Now you can either take this more rounded or you can take it a little bit more elongated. I'm gonna go for something a little bit more in the middle. I'm gonna bring a little bit under my eye. I'm not loving the outer corner, so I just wanna clean it up a little bit. And instead of using concealer, I'm having to worry about putting a liquid over top of my powder products, I'm gonna use a powder foundation. This is the Fenty Beauty Pro Filter Soft Matte Powder Foundation in the shade 160. And I'm gonna use a small brush. This is a Refer number 28 brush. And I'm just gonna go for my lower lash line and just tidy up under that shadow. I'm gonna switch it over to my blending brush. This is the e.l.f. Fluffy Eye Blender. I'm gonna angle my brush up towards the shadow and just buff and blend, and then I can taper back into the eye. And that just helps to lift up and clean up that corner a little bit. So that way, because I feel like over here before I fix up, it's kind of dragging the outer corner of my eye down, and I want to lift the outer corner of my eye. I'm gonna switch over to a BK Beauty A501. I want to use the other shimmer in my palette. This is a pressed pigment called Spring Fling. And with this color, I want to start packing it on the inner corner of my eye and pulling it into the center of the eyelid. I'm gonna take the same color, and here on the inner corner of the lower lash line, I'm just going to work it into the inner fourth of my eye, almost going from the inner corner to the inner corner of the iris. And for the look, we're creating more of a warm, smoky look. When I created the poll of the different options of looks that I thought would be fun to create for soft muted autumn, the winner was a look that Rose from Blackpink had on, and it was very much a soft, warm, smoky eye. So we're gonna go with a soft, warm, soft autumn smoky eye in today's video. But we're putting my own little spin on it, and I love playing with different colors. Now I'm going to use the deepest shade of my palette. This is called Dark Chocolate, and it's a matte eyeshadow, the Wayne Goss number 19 brush. And I don't know if the Wayne Goss eye brushes are discontinued, but I have a set. I love them. I just can't find them online to link them, so I have no idea what's happening, but it's just a small tapered pencil brush. And I just want a tiny, tiny bit of product on the tip of the brush, and I'm gonna use this now just to gently press some of the darker shadow here into the outer corner of the eye. And then once I kind of have it stippled where I want it, use a light hand and just start feathering and creating the darker shade for our smoky eye. I'm gonna use my e.l.f. Fluffy Eye Blender, and I want to gently soften that in and taper that in. I'm gonna keep working on this side before I move to my right eye, just because you have to be careful. So going back to our palette, our lid shade, our crease shade, and our more transitional crease tone, they're very, very similar. Even though they're harmonious with the seasonal color palette, meaning they are neutral, warm shades, they're very close in color family. You have to be careful because they can all blend together and get muddy. So little tiny bits here and there, and when you're blending, you don't wanna overblend. That's why we're not taking this brush and just buffing it with little windshield wiper motions, because you're gonna get like a spot of brown eyeshadow that's going to muddy in and create this orange muddy mess on the outer corner. So very intentional amounts of product used sparingly. So here again, just gonna press, just stipple where you want the color to be. And then you can do some very gentle, small buffing eyeshadow motions just to soften. I always like to mix that with some stippling again, almost buff and pull. Then I'll buff a little bit more. Now I feel like this side again went a little bit darker than this side. So what I have left on my brush, I'm just going to gently press. This time I'm looking in the mirror behind my camera, so that way I can see a little bit further. That way I can make sure I'm keeping my color harmony and keeping the color balance between the two eyes. And whatever's left on my brush, I just want to connect gently the lower lash line. And I'm gonna use my e.l.f. Fluffy Eye Blender. Look far away as you can. So if you're standing in front of a wall-mounted mirror, take a step or two back. You should still be able to see what you're doing, but keep that distance. That way it's gonna be a little bit easier to gauge. And that's just a personal preference, as I find if I'm looking in a mirror up close like this, here I'm okay with how they look. But when I look further away, I don't like how they look. I feel like one shape is a little bit more elongated, where one shape shape's rounder, one shape has a little bit more intensity. So sometimes what you see up close versus far away will be a little different. So I'm just gonna look further away and I'm going to blend, pause, look side to side. I might go back to my powder foundation in just a moment and touch up under the lower lash line, but for now I wanna leave it here. And I wanna move into my transitional tone, which is going to be the light peachy shade, which is very similar to the peaches and cream blush we used earlier. Paired to the blush we used earlier, this is gonna have a little bit more density as far as the pigment, meaning eyeshadows are a little bit more, the pigment you'll find is a little bit more denser, a little bit more concentrated compared to a blush, which is more diffused. This shade I'm using is a matte eyeshadow in the shade French Hince. I'm gonna go back to my MAC 217. Is this 217? Yeah, 217. This is a really old brush too. This is just 217, not a 217S. This means I would have purchased this back when I was still with MAC, the first time I was with MAC, before all the MAC brushes went synthetic. So that means this brush is like 9 years old. That's incredible. So I wiped off most of what I could. It's still stained from that golden strawberry shade. I'm gonna pick up a little bit of the French Hen color on the point of my brush. I'm gonna switch back to my little handheld mirror, and just here on the perimeter of my eyeshadow, I want to softly blend. And I'm gonna run under my lower eye, connecting everything together. It just helps to kind of blend and tie the edges together. We're creating that smooth gradient from where my eyeshadow starts and stops and where my skin meets. Now, with this being such a red look on the eyes, I need to ground it. So I want to add a little bit of a darker eyeliner to keep everything feeling very harmonious. So I'm gonna use a small, stiff, angled brush. This is a Morphe M165. And I'm gonna use the Laura Geller Kajal Longwear Eyeliner Smoky Taupe Kohl. Oh, I guess the color is just called Smoky Taupe. And if you're skilled with using a chubby eye pencil like this, use it straight from the pencil. I'm not, so I'm going to use a brush. And using my brush, I am just going to press at the root of the lash and smudge. Then I like to flip my brush so the longer end is going towards the outside of my eye. And then I can just follow my lower lash line, set my brush where I want it, press, wiggle, and it will give me the little indent of where to place my flick. And then I can just pull it in and connect the eyeliner that I stamped on. I'm gonna go back to that small Refer 28 brush that I used with the powder foundation, and I'm just going to run right under that pencil liner and just kind of smudge it and push it up where I want it to be. Now I'm just gonna do the same thing on the other side. I like how this side connected to the inner corner a little bit better, so I'm just gonna use the residual of my brush to work whatever's left of my brush from the inner corner to meet the center of the liner. Since I do have a little bit of a heavier eyelid, I'm going to go back into the matte brown eyeshadow called Dark Chocolate, and I'm going to use that same small angled brush, and I'm just going to trace, and I'm going to use the eyeshadow now to trace over the pencil eyeliner. Back to my Refer number 28, a little bit of my powder foundation, sharpen up the eyeliner a bit. Elf Fluffy Eye Blender, again, I'm just looking a little bit further out. Soften everything down. Let's move back into the face. I'm gonna use a little bit of my Hourglass Ambient Lighting Bronzer. This is the shade Nude Bronze Light. And I'm gonna use the IT Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe Wand Ball Powder Brush. For this, I just wanna take it on the back of my cheek, right between where I placed my blush and bronzer, and I'm gonna work it into the forehead. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know I love that kind of Korean beauty, Chinese beauty, expanding shade blusher. So I've got a shade I think will do really well as an expanding blush for soft muted autumn. This is from the brand The Same, and this is the single blush, and the shade is PK09 Pastel Rosy. I'm gonna use my BK Beauty, a 507 angled blush brush, and I'm just gonna place this right here on the inner corner. An expanding shade almost acts like a hybrid of a matte highlighter and a blush, so it's going to be a little bit lighter and brighter than the rest of the cheek, but it's going to help kind of plump up and firm up the center portion. Okay, not quite the color I was thinking of, so I'm just going to soften that down. It still works, like it's a beautiful blush shade. It's like a nice kind of peach pink apricot. I'm gonna take a little bit more of the Peaches and Cream from Sydney Grace. I'm just gonna use my powder blush and work it on powder brush. I think I called it a powder blush. I'm using a powder blush with my powder brush. Okay, I'm gonna use my bronzer brush just to go over my edges a bit. Now I'm gonna use the Glossier Lash Slick Mascara in the shade Brown. And I'm just gonna go over, give my lashes another good coat of mascara to add a little bit more depth and drama to the eyes. I'm gonna add a little bit more, I wanna add a little bit more shine to the lips, so I'm gonna use the Lisa Eldridge Gloss Embrace in the shade Muse, which is the same shade that we use for the lip pencil. And you could easily use the Velvet Lip color in Muse as well. That's a great, soft, muted lip color. One of my favorite things to do for any soft or muted color palette, so soft muted summer or soft muted autumn, I like to use a buffing or finishing powder to smooth out the complexion and kind of blur the lines of all of my color products. I'm going to use the Baked Bio Brightening Powder from Well People. I think this has a new name, but product is the same. And I am just going to use this with my bronzer brush, which was the IT Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe Wand Ball Powder Brush number 8. And I'm going to use this just to dust all over and soften off my powder products. And the reason I love doing this for my soft muted color seasons is because everything is soft and muted. Everything's gonna flow into each other without a harsh line where one thing stops and one thing starts. I also like to use my e.l.f. Fluffy Eye Blender. I'm gonna take more of that Well People powder and I'm gonna go right over the seam of my eyeshadow where that transitional tone meets my skin tone. I can even go right under and soften off the lower lash line. It's not gonna have a ton of impact. It's not gonna have a ton of presence, but it's going to keep things feeling harmonious. It's gonna help give you that soft diffusion of color. It just looks like everything is just melting with intention from one shade to the next and to the next. Here is going to be the final soft muted warm smoky eye for soft autumn. I love this and I felt like we really got to tiptoe into mostly the soft muted autumn color palette, but we also got to sprinkle and tiptoe our way into soft muted summer as well as warm true autumn, which are going to be the neighbor color palettes. And we've got a little bit of light spring, which is the sister color palette. And the way we really did that is with the eyeshadow. So you're gonna have shades like golden strawberry, which is gonna be a little bit warmer, it's a little bit more shimmery. That's another shade that we use is gonna be great for light spring. It's going to be that blush, the PK09 Pastel Rosy from the same beautiful shade for light spring as well. Warm true autumn, we got in there with those warm tones. Things like the blush, the eyeshadow, the more deep, darker color, and bronzer. You can't forget about bronzer when it comes to warm true autumn, because warm autumn and all the autumn seasons, those are really the perfect seasons to have fun and go to town with your bronzer. And the nod to soft muted summer was subtle, but we got there with our pressed pigment eyeshadow in the shade Spring Fling. It's gonna be a little bit more of a neutral, but it does have a little bit of a misty purple shift to it. Now that we're here at the end of the video, I want to touch on a few products I use for my complexion, just because these aren't the center point of the video, but I feel like it's helpful. So the products I use are the Hourglass Vanish Airbrush Primer. I can't figure this out. Sometimes I really like it. Sometimes I feel like it makes things look heavy. I can't figure it out. With foundations, I really enjoy this. Looks great. But for foundations, I'm kind of in the middle of the road about, like the one I used today. I don't really love it. And the foundation I used today is the current version of the L'Oreal True Match foundation, which is puzzling because this formula I find gets a little heavy, and as it wears, it settles like horribly, like here in the corners of my nose, around my mouth. It looks very heavy on smile lines. It's one of the few foundations that really settles into smile lines for me. I'm not a fan, but the current US formula is wonderful. This is like a second skin that is smooth and creamy and just gorgeous on the skin. I don't really understand what happened between the American formula and the Canadian. This one, it's been in my drawer for a bit. It's getting ready to expire, so I wanted to give it one more go to see if it was worth repurchasing. This one, you will see it in my empties. I did not finish it. It's expiring. For my priming base, for a little bit of a highlighter, I wanted to use the Maybelline Instant Ager 1 Perfector 4-in-1 Glow Makeup. I have the shade 00 Fairlight, and I take the sponge off because I just find the sponges get a little grubby. I don't know. I'm not a fan of the color. I have the lightest shade 00 Fairlight, and it's a little too dark. It's a little too neutral green on me. It's just not a very flattering shade, and there's something about the formula. I don't like the way it sits on my skin. I much prefer how the e.l.f. Halo Glow or the L'Oreal True Match Lumi sits on the skin. This just, I like the color, especially for soft muted autumn, but for me, my skin tone, it's not my favorite. And then the concealer. I love the Kosas Revealer Concealer. I have shade 1.5C. I love this. My issue is with doing YouTube, having various different concealers I love and I don't use the same concealer every single day, and this lasts for about 4 to 5 months, and I find it smells really off, which makes sense because on the bottom it has that little open jar sign which says it's good for 6 months. I would like to get a full year out of my concealer. For the price of Kosas, it's around the $40 mark here in Canada. I just wish it would last a little bit longer, and I know Kosas is more of like a clean brand, so they don't have some of those more traditional preservatives to keep their formulas quote unquote clean, but I wish it lasts a little bit longer because even using it every day, I don't use enough concealer to go through this in 6 months. And then the other one I have is the Hince, and Hince is a Korean brand. The color is not right for me. I have shade 17 Fair, and depending on the brand within KBD products, I can either get away with shade 17 or shade 21. Shade 17 in Hince is just a little too yellowy for me. I have the foundation as well, so I'll be showing those in a separate video coming up soon. But I don't know. This one, I've had it for a little bit. I don't use it often just because I don't like the way it looks on my skin. It just never kind of settles down and looks as realistic as what I like. So not a huge fan of that. Overall, I really enjoy how the look came out today, and I hope you enjoyed this. I hope if you recreate this soft muted autumn look at home, let me know how it went for you, and I would just love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions at home. So let me know in the comments down below. Oh, also, I have been linking the nail colors I wear in my videos in the description box down below, but today I'm wearing the SC Social Lights shade 1119. This is from, I believe it was called the Social Lights collection, which was holiday 2017, and this one is so old. It still has the previous like thinner brush, which I'm normally not a fan of that brush style, but this is an easy color to just, it glides on so easily, and you could do this easily with one coat. I do 2 coats just because that's how I was taught in school. We do base coat, 2 coats of color, and then a top coat, and that's just how I do all nail polishes. And this is such a great formula. I love Essie. Between all the high-end affordable brands, Essie is my favorite nail polish brand, and I'm wearing what I consider to be my favorite soft muted autumn fragrance. Sadly, this is my last backup bottle as well. MAC Shade Scent Eau de Parfum, the shade Creme de Nude. This is so beautiful. MAC a few years ago came out with these things called shade scents, which was I think 5 fragrances. There was Creme de Nude, Velvet Teddy, Lady Danger. There was a purple one. Oh my goodness, was it Rubble? The purple one had more of like a leathery feeling to it. This is just such a great one. It's a kind of musky vanilla scent, a little bit spicy. I love this for autumn, and I have been through about 4 or 5 bottles of this over the years, and right before I left MAC in 2019, I stocked up on this, and this is the last backup bottle I have. So if it's still around, who knows, maybe I will purchase it again, but I love Creme de Nude shade scent. It's not the most long-lasting fragrance, but it's just a warm, cozy, soft, warm scent that I really enjoy. So that is it. I will see you all in the next video. I hope you are taking care of yourself wherever it is you are in the world, and I will see you later. Bye, y'all.